Dangerous people don't win because they're evil. They win because they act. Fast, cold, without hesitation. While good people think and weigh their options, someone else has already decided. While they doubt themselves and try not to hurt anyone, someone else moves forward. The world doesn't reward good intentions. It responds to clarity and decisive action. Here's the paradox. Good people don't lose because they're good. They lose because they lack precision, discipline, and resolve. The moment kindness is backed by confidence, the balance shifts. When principles stop being an excuse for weakness, everything changes. When those principles become a source of strength, the dynamic flips. This video is about keeping your humanity and refusing to be outpaced. Watch till the end, because you might realize you've been playing the wrong game all along.
Everyone thinks their problem is other people. Toxic people. Selfish people. Cold people. But the truth is, the problem isn't them. The problem is that you made yourself convenient. Voluntarily. Systematically. From the time you were old enough to read a room and adjust yourself to what you found there. And in the next few minutes you're going to understand exactly how that happened, who profited from it, and what you're going to do about it. You were taught to be agreeable. Not because it's virtuous. Because agreeable people are easy to manage. You apologize when you're not wrong. You soften your opinion before you say it. You shrink in rooms where you should be expanding. You go along with things you internally reject, just to avoid conflict. Just so you won't be abandoned. Just so you'll remain needed. And the people around you didn't teach you this through cruelty. They taught you through silence. Through withdrawal. Through a look that said, "You are too much. Make yourself smaller." And you did. Again and again. Until it became automatic. Until you stopped noticing you were doing it at all. Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Hold that thought. It becomes important later when we get to the most uncomfortable part. This isn't one bad relationship. It isn't one person. It's architecture. A social system that rewards compliance and punishes autonomy. Look at how most social structures are built: family, school, workplace. The same logic everywhere. The person who is convenient receives approval. The person who is inconvenient receives pressure. The person who asks uncomfortable questions receives a label. Difficult. Complex. Selfish. When you're convenient, people learn your edges. They learn where to push. They learn what threat, emotional, social, silent, is sufficient to make you fold. They don't always do this consciously. Sometimes it's pure instinct. A social organism feeling out hierarchy. Checking who leads and who follows. And if you retreat every time, the answer becomes obvious. And once they have that answer, they own you. Without a single word about it. There are specific behavioral signals that broadcast to everyone around you, this person is safe to use. The first is over-explanation. When someone asks about your decision, you don't just answer. You justify yourself. You construct a defense in advance. That's an anxiety signal. Confident people don't explain their decisions to those who have no right to challenge them. The second signal is preemptive softening. You open a sentence with an apology before you've even made your point. "I could be wrong, but I'm not sure this is relevant." You devalue yourself before anyone else gets the chance. The third, immediate agreement under pressure. Not under arguments. Under pressure. Under tone. Under silence. Under tension in the air. You change your position not because you were persuaded, but because it became uncomfortable. The fourth, constant availability. You respond immediately. Always. For everyone. That signals, "I have nothing more important than you." You're setting your own price as low. The fifth, the inability to hold a pause after stating a position. You can't sustain the silence that follows a boundary. Something pulls you to fill it. To soften it. To add to it. To take it back. This is the most expensive signal of all 5. Because that pause is exactly where it gets decided who is stronger here. But all of that is external. Those are symptoms. Now, the most important part. The part most content on this topic will never tell you. Because it's uncomfortable. Because it requires a level of honesty most people are not ready for. The simple solution sounds like this: stop being soft. Set boundaries. Say no more. That's not wrong. But it's not the real problem. It's the surface. And if you stop at the surface, in 3 months you'll be exactly where you started. Because behavior doesn't change without changing what sits beneath it. The real problem is that you allow yourself to be used because part of you believes you deserve it. Not consciously. You would never say that out loud. But look at your behavior without the protective explanations. You explain yourself when no one asked. You apologize in advance. You make yourself smaller before anyone has even requested it. You anticipate someone else's displeasure and you're already working to prevent it before it has even formed. That's not politeness. That's anxiety that learned to look like politeness. That's internalized punishment. And it's running in the background of every interaction you have, quietly, invisibly, constantly. Jung called it the shadow. The parts of yourself you bury because someone once said, "That's too much. Too aggressive. Too ambitious. Too cold. Too selfish." And you lock them away. Not destroyed them, locked them. Because they can't be destroyed. He wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." You thought your patterns were just you. They are not you. They're a program that was installed. The repeating situations where you get used, that's not bad luck. That's not coincidence. That's a program that keeps selecting the same situations, the same people, the same result. Because the familiar feels safe. Even when it destroys you. And now those blocked parts are leaking. Not the way they should. They leak as chronic resentment toward people who simply took what you offered. As exhaustion without a clear source. As the feeling that you give a great deal and receive very little, in every sense. As envy of people who simply allow themselves what you forbid yourself. That's not their fault. That's your blocked power, searching for an exit. Jung was direct about it: in each of us there is another person we do not know. Not the one you show the world. Not the one people want you to be. Another one. The one you're afraid of yourself. The one who knows what he wants. Who doesn't require approval. Who can say no without collapsing from it. That person is closest to your real power. But that's exactly the one you suppress most aggressively. Because someone once punished you for him. Through silence. Through withdrawal. Through a look of disappointment. And the lesson lodged deep. This is where the real work is. Not in technique. Not in words. In reframing what you've been calling your flaws. Anger is not a character defect. Anger is information. It tells you where your boundary is. Where something has been violated. Where action is required. The people who taught you to suppress anger needed you not to know where your boundary was. Because a person without a boundary is convenient. Anger, properly used, is not aggression. It's clarity. It's fuel. It's a signal system you switched off, and now you're operating blind. Coldness is not cruelty. Coldness is the ability to think clearly when someone is attempting to use emotion to override your judgment. When someone applies pressure through guilt, through pity, through the threat of withdrawal, the ability to stay cold in that moment doesn't make you unfeeling. It makes you ungovernable. And ungovernable people are free. Ambition is not greed. Ambition is the refusal to accept a smaller life because it would make others more comfortable. Every time you reduce your goals in conversation, you're paying a social tax for approval. You're trading your direction in exchange for not being called arrogant. Detachment is not indifference. Detachment is the ability to regulate who has access to you. Not everyone deserves the same access. Not everyone deserves to see your vulnerabilities. The openness you were taught to consider a virtue, in the wrong hands, it becomes a map of your weak points. You were taught to see all of this as flaws. Look carefully at who benefits from that belief. Jung wrote, "The meeting with the shadow is ultimately a meeting with one's own worth. Not with who people want you to be. With who you actually are." Most people go their entire lives without summoning the courage for that meeting. They stay convenient, manageable, predictable. They call it maturity. They call it humility. They call it spiritual development. But beneath those beautiful words, there is simply fear. Fear of what happens if they allow themselves to be real. Something should feel different right now. Like a weight that's been sitting on your chest, that just got named for the first time. That's not coincidence. That's recognition. And it's only the beginning. Now, concrete. Because understanding without tools is just elegant suffering. You need mechanisms. Specific, applicable, effective. The first. The neutral face protocol. When someone says something designed to land on you, or a dig, a test, a quiet power move, give them nothing. Not anger. Not defense. Not explanation. Neutral face. Steady eyes. Silence. This is unnatural at first. The body wants to react. The body wants to defend. But reaction is what they're waiting for. Reaction confirms contact was made. The neutral face says, "You didn't reach me." This isn't indifference. This is control. Silence is not submission. Silence is the refusal to play. And most people have no idea what to do with someone who doesn't react to provocation. They either escalate, which makes their intention obvious, or they retreat, which establishes hierarchy without a single word being spoken. Practice, for the next 2 weeks, in any situation where someone provokes you, ask yourself one question: do I want to react, or do I want to win? These are different things. Reaction is emotional. Victory is strategic. The second. The strategic pause. Before any significant response, pause 3 to 5 seconds. Not because you don't know the answer. Because you're watching what they do with the silence. This is one of the most powerful diagnostic tools available. Insecure people fill silence, they begin explaining, adding, softening their own statement. Manipulative people use silence as pressure, they watch you, waiting for you to fill it with agreement. Confident people wait. And in that waiting, they read everything they need. The pause also changes how you're perceived. People who respond immediately are read as reactive. People who hold the pause are read as deliberate, weighty, unpredictable. Unpredictable is the key word. You can only manage someone whose behavior you can predict. Practice, in your next conversation where someone asks something of you, hold a minimum 3-second pause before responding. Even if the answer is obvious. Watch what your conversation partner does with the silence. What they do in those seconds will tell you more about them than the conversation itself. The third. Intentional ambiguity. Stop telling people your plans before they are complete. Stop announcing your intentions. This is one of the most costly mistakes people with potential consistently make. You share a goal, and you receive a dose of social approval. Dopamine released. The brain registers reward. Motivation drops. This is neuroscience, not metaphor. Research consistently shows that announcing a goal reduces the likelihood of achieving it because the brain confuses the announcement with the execution. But there's a second layer. When you announce intentions, you invite interference. You create an audience that now has an opinion about your process. Some will doubt. Some will warn. Some will offer support, but that support generates an expectation of updates, of regular feedback, of the right to know. You take on social debt that weighs you down as you move. Finished results speak. Announced intentions invite management. Work in silence. Let results create the noise. Practice, identify one significant goal you've already told people about. Stop the updates. Without explanation. Without announcement. Just stop. Watch who asks about it. And watch precisely what they ask. Interest in your progress and interest in controlling your direction sound very different from each other. The fourth. Controlled withdrawal. This is not revenge. This is not manipulation. This is resource management. Your time, attention, and energy are finite. They have a value. And either you set that value yourself or others set it for you. Usually somewhere close to zero. If someone consistently takes more energy than they return, reduce access. Slowly. Without announcements. Without drama. Without confrontation that gives them the opportunity to cast themselves as the victim. Simply, less. Less availability. Less initiative. Less emotional investment. This isn't cruelty. It's accounting. Jung wrote about psychic energy, libido. Psychic energy flows where you direct attention. If your attention is constantly directed toward people and situations that drain you, you are literally giving your psychic power to what destroys you. This isn't poetry. It's mechanics. Watch how quickly they notice the reduction in access. Watch what they say. If they say, "I noticed you've pulled back, is everything all right?" that's one type of relationship. If they say, "You've changed, you've become cold, you don't care anymore," that's another. The first is concern. The second is a complaint about loss of access. That tells you everything you need to know about why they were there. Practice, identify 3 people in your life with whom you consistently feel more depleted after interaction than before. Don't cut contact abruptly. Reduce your initiative by half. Stop being the first to write, to call, to suggest. Watch what happens. Relationships that exist only because of your initiative are not relationships. They are maintenance. The fifth. The shadow audit. Jung wrote, "The shadow is 90% pure gold." The most valuable thing in you is precisely what you were taught to hide. Write down every trait you were told was too much. Too intense. Too direct. Too ambitious. Too detached. Too demanding. You want too much. This is not a list of your problems. This is a list of your suppressed competencies. Intensity in the right context is passion that moves things. Directness is clarity that most people fear because it exposes. Ambition is the refusal of mediocrity. Detachment is the capacity to see a situation without emotional distortion. Demanding high standards is what produces quality. Each of these was called a flaw by someone because it was inconvenient for them. Not for you. For them. Practice, take a piece of paper. Draw 2 columns. In the first, traits you've been told are negative. In the second, write the context in which each trait is a distinct advantage. Every single trait has a context in which it is power. Your task is not to eliminate these traits. Your task is to learn to deploy them consciously, rather than suppress them unconsciously. The sixth. Narrative control. Most people respond to the stories they've been told about themselves. If you've been called difficult for long enough, you begin to behave as difficult. If you've been told long enough that you're weak in some area, you avoid that area entirely. This is not a character weakness. It's normal brain function. Narrative shapes behavior. But you can change the narrative. Not through affirmations. Not through positive thinking. Through actions that generate new data about you or for you. The brain updates its self-concept through experience, not through words. Every time you hold a position under pressure, you create new experience. Every time you sustain the pause, new experience. Every time you decline without explanation, new experience. Accumulated experience changes the narrative. The changed narrative changes default behavior. Practice, choose one small action that contradicts the old story about you. Not large. Small. If you've always explained your refusals, refuse once without explanation. If you've always been the first to seek reconciliation, don't, once. A small action against the pattern is a crack in the program. Do it consistently. Cracks expand. The 7th. The access hierarchy. Not everyone in your life should have equal access to you. This sounds obvious, but most people live as though everyone is entitled to everything. Your time. Your opinions. Your vulnerabilities. Your plans. Think in 3 circles. The outer circle, people who know you on the surface. They have access to your courtesy, your professional face, your general views. Nothing more. The middle circle, people who have earned greater access through time, through demonstrated reciprocity, through proven reliability. More is available to them. The inner circle, 1 to 3 people at most. People you actually trust. They have access to the real you. The problem with most people who get used, they live with an inverted hierarchy. They give inner access to outer circle people. They trust those who have not earned it. They open where they should remain closed. Practice, go through the people in your life and honestly place each one. Which circle do they actually belong in, and what level of access are you actually giving them? The gap between their real circle and their actual access is a map of your vulnerabilities. The 8th. Working with projection. Jung described the mechanism of projection with surgical precision, the qualities we cannot accept in ourselves we see in others. If someone's self-assurance enrages you, that may be suppressed self-assurance in yourself. If someone's coldness irritates you, that may be your own blocked capacity for detachment. If you judge someone's ambition, you may be judging your own desire for more that you're afraid to acknowledge. This doesn't mean every reaction you have is projection. It means that strong, repeating reactions to specific qualities in others are a pointer to something inside you that requires attention. Practice, write down 3 qualities in other people that produce your strongest reaction: irritation, judgment, envy. For each one, ask, in what form does this quality exist in me, and why am I suppressing it? The answers will be uncomfortable. Uncomfortable answers are the most valuable ones. The 9th. Reframing conflict. Most people avoid conflict because they were taught that conflict destroys relationships. This is false. Conflict is information about a relationship. Relationships that cannot survive an honest conflict are not relationships. They are convenient agreements, valid exactly as long as you remain convenient. Fear of conflict is not peacekeeping. It's fear of what happens when the other person sees the real you and rejects it. Fear that without the mask of agreeableness, no one will want you. And that fear keeps you in a role you resent. Conflict conducted clearly, without aggression, from a position, is not destruction. It is filtration. It reveals who responds to your reality with respect and who responds with pressure. That is invaluable information. Practice, in the next situation where your internal voice says one thing but you're preparing to say what's expected, say yours. Not harshly. Clearly. Briefly. Without a long preamble. Without apology. 1 or 2 sentences. Watch the reaction. The reaction will tell you whether this relationship is worth continued investment. The 10th. Managing emotional debt. There is an invisible economy running in relationships. Certain people consistently generate in you a sense of obligation. You owe them something. For their time. For their attention. For their help. For the fact that they're present at all. This is not organic gratitude. This is manufactured debt. It's a control instrument. Signs of manufactured debt: you feel obligated after every interaction with this person. You are reminded of what was done for you precisely when you want to say no. Your disagreement produces a hurt that then requires compensation. Every favor they extend is an investment with an expected return. Real gratitude exists. Real reciprocity exists. But manufactured debt is different. It is a dependency economy. And the exit begins with recognizing the difference between the two. Practice, The next time you feel the wave of obligation after someone's request, pause. Ask honestly, do I genuinely want to help here, or am I afraid of what refusing will cost me? If the answer is the second, it's already visible. Now, the most important thing. About enantiodromia. Jung described a principle that most people have never heard named, but have experienced repeatedly. Enantiodromia. The principle that any extreme in the psyche will eventually convert into its opposite. The person who suppresses anger too long, one day explodes disproportionately to the situation. The person who ignores their own needs for too long, one day shuts down completely. The person who was convenient for too long begins destroying relationships chaotically, without strategy, from accumulated rage. That is not liberation. That is uncontrolled release. That is shadow energy held too long, breaking out without direction. The goal is not to detonate everything that's been compressed. The goal is integration. The gradual, conscious inclusion of the blocked parts. Jung called this individuation the process of becoming whole. Not good. Not cold. Whole. Capable of the full spectrum of human states, and capable of choosing which state to apply in a given situation. That is real power. Not aggression. Not coldness. Not manipulation. Choice. Conscious, strategic, precise choice from the full range of your capacity. You've been watching this long enough now. And something has shifted. Not because I told you something revolutionary. Because I named something you already knew. You knew people were using your agreeableness. You knew your anger was trying to tell you something. You knew the version of you that everyone approved of was not entirely real. You knew. You simply weren't given permission to act on it. Consider this the permission. Jung said what most people are not ready to hear, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Not partially. Not the version that earns approval. Completely. With the anger. With the ambition. With the coldness. With the power you were trained to conceal. That is integration. Not enlightenment. Not kindness. The acceptance of everything you are, and the decision of how to direct it. You can't go back to not knowing this. You'll hear it in conversations now. The quiet requests. The soft manipulations. The compliance tests. The invitations to become smaller. You'll feel the pull to fold, and now you'll recognize it for what it is. Not social necessity. A program. And you now have a choice, whether to run it or not. Most people who watch this will nod. Close the tab. Return to their patterns. Because, as Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Some won't. If you're in that second group, if something in this video cracked something open, leave one word in the comments. Not a paragraph. One word. The thing you're done tolerating. You'll see it in other people's comments. You'll recognize each other. That recognition is not an accident. There's something I didn't cover today. The most dangerous pattern of all. It's not what other people do to you. It's what you do to yourself, automatically, unconsciously, every time you get close to real power. It's the mechanism that turns you back around right on the threshold of change. It has a name. It has a precise structure. And it is the exact reason why most people who understand everything I said today still don't change. That's next.